there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I have finally some exciting news for you. Tales from the Gas Station Volume 1 through 3 is available right now on Amazon, in Kindle, on paperback, in hardcover, and finally, after months of waiting, on Audible. That's right, you can now get Volume 3 on Audible using the links in the description down below. And to always get new stuff from Tales from the Gas Station as well as new announcements, check out GasStationJack.com. And on to tonight's story. Jerry swung a mean right hook across Wolfgang's cheek. It connected with enough force to send the boy flying off the table. "Boom, baby!" Jerry exclaimed as Wolfgang and the knife both collided with the floor. He walked over to where Wolfgang was trying to pick himself back up. "You know, I promised my lawyer I'd stop punching kids in the face, but for you, I think I'll make an exception." Wolfgang made a desperate charge for the knife, but Jerry caught him in a headlock and pulled him away, shushing calmly. "It's okay, relax. We're gonna leave the little weapon and talk about this like adults. We're gonna be like Fonzie, okay? And you probably don't get either version of that reference, but trust me, it's okay." Hope was already running around the table. "Let go of my child!" she screamed. Before any of us had time to react, Hope had already pulled the gun out of her clutch purse, put it against Jerry's head, and pulled the trigger. His lifeless body fell to the ground. Wolfgang gasped for air. Hope dropped to her knees and reached for her son. It was the last mistake she'd make in this life. He quickly picked up the knife, turned, and plunged it into her eye all the way to the hilt. By the time she had collapsed the rest of the way to the ground, Wolfgang was already halfway out of the dining room. I ran to Jerry's side, but there's nothing I could do for him. The bullet had gone straight through. It was a clean kill. He never saw it coming and hopefully didn't feel a thing. "What the fuck?" Lauren screamed. "Where did that gun come from?" Tobias walked over, knelt down and pulled the weapon from Hope's dead fingers. He turned it over a couple times and gave his assessment. "It's a Ruger 380. Purse gun. Designed to be discreet." I tried not to lose my temper. "You mean to tell me that this woman has had a gun on her this entire time? And what?" I screamed at Hope's body now. "You just chose not to defend yourself? Maybe that I can understand, but then you freaking killed Jerry just because he was trying to help you." Lauren grabbed my arm. "Jack, calm down. You're not helping." I tried to calm down. I really did, but then a chime rang out and Nathaniel said with a smile, "Ah, goody. It seems that the detective has finally arrived. Perhaps he can help us sort out this ghastly affair." "Shut up, Nathaniel! Nobody likes you! You're worse than a hangnail!" Tobias walked up to Nathaniel and draped his jacket over the old man's head. "Ignore him," he said. "Now, let's talk about a game plan. Next time we respawn, when the boy attacks Jack, I'll subdue the mom. Lauren, can you help Jerry?" "Sure can." "Great. In that case, I propose we skip ahead right now. There are 6 bullets left in Hope's gun. Any volunteers?" I was taken aback. "Wait," I said. "Hang on. You're all suddenly okay with the idea of dying?" "It's not death," Tobias explained. "We've been busy. We learned a lot after your disappearance. For instance, we learned that this isn't a solid timeline. There's an incursion. We built an echolocator out of the radio and some spare parts from... Did you guys even look for me?" Tobias made a face like he just heard me speak in Comic Sans. "Why would we? Your trap gave us an entire, uninterrupted hour to experiment and learn exactly what we're up against." "What about Jerry? Did he at least try?" Lauren answered. "He did, but he got struck by lightning a few minutes after you disappeared." Tobias shook his head. "I told him not to bother, but Jack, you're missing the point. We figured out so much. See, this house, it's a vacuum in time, all right?" Something about Tobias's explanation was nagging in my subconscious. I asked, "Does that mean you know how to get us out of it?" "No, but I think you're failing to understand the implications. It completely rewrites quantum theory from the ground up." There was still something there, beyond the technobabble. Something he said that I couldn't let go of. "Does any of that get us closer to getting home?" "It will," he explained. "The scientific process is just that, a process. There aren't any eureka moments without extensive work and study. We're only at the beginning of..." "Hang on," I interrupted. It finally clicked. "You said respawn earlier." A frown overtook his expression. "Yeah, what's your point?" I laughed softly to myself. "I know what's going on." "I sincerely doubt that." I was about to explain when Claire started to cough. Lauren grabbed me by the arm and said, "Guys, I think we have a problem." Tobias was already moving for the door before I even smelled the smoke. Claire struggled to get through her coughing fit to spit out the words, "Wait, don't." But it was too late. Tobias stepped into the smoke-filled great room. The carpet, bookshelves, and couches were all burning up. Tobias stood there staring at the flames, likely working out the best plan to extinguish the fire. It was exactly what Wolfgang was counting on. For the smartest man in the world, Tobias sure was stupid as hell sometimes. The boy leapt out of his hiding spot and smashed the fire poker over Tobias's head, dropping him instantly. Before I knew it, he had grabbed his mother's gun and put a bullet in Tobias's back. Then he set his eyes on us. Lauren pulled me to the back of the dining room and screamed, "Run!" Just as the next shot rang out, I saw Bridget fall to the ground. Then we were flying through the door behind us into the parlor. We ran without thinking, deeper into the house, through the doorway at the far end, into the nauseatingly long hallway with the lime green and purple wallpaper. The sisters ran in front of me. I stopped to look behind to see if we were even being followed, but all I saw was an endless stretch of checkered carpet. It seemingly went on for miles and miles. I closed my eyes and I tried to remind myself that it was just an optical illusion. A shot rang out. I opened my eyes and saw Wolfgang standing there. I couldn't figure out how close he was. That damn hallway made it impossible to know if the space between us was a few feet or a few hundred yards. My ears stung. The bullet must have grazed me, I thought. I put my hand to the side of my head, pulled back at the searing pain, looked at the handful of blood in my palm, and reassessed. The bullet did more than graze me. Wolfgang was running now. I turned around and did the same. Lauren was calling my name from somewhere up ahead. For the first time, I noticed an irregularity in the repeating pattern against the walls. A break. No, a door. Lauren leaned out and gestured for me to hurry up, but she was so far away and Wolfgang was gaining, I'd never make it in time. Another shot echoed down the hall, and then, inexplicably, I was there. Lauren pulled me through and slammed the door shut behind us. My heart was about to beat its way out of my chest. My lungs were ready to explode. But this was no time to rest. We had to keep running. I looked forward to see what kind of room we'd end up in and immediately said, "Fuck!" It was more of the same. An impossibly long, thin hallway with green and purple wallpaper and checkered carpet. The walls were littered now with doors arranged endlessly down the corridors, all identical to the one that we'd just gone through. "Which one do we pick?" Lauren asked. There was fear and uncertainty written all over Claire's face. She didn't want to tell her sister she didn't know the answer. Instead, she pointed at the closest door. As good a chance as any. We all ran through it and saw more hallway, more doors, more green and purple wallpaper. I could hear Wolfgang screaming from behind the door we just closed. We couldn't stop now. I pointed at a door at random and said, "That one!" They didn't question it. They just followed me as I pushed it open and ran into more hallway, more doors, no end in sight. I shut the door behind us as the sisters raced through. Claire fell to the ground, gasping for air. Hope was at her side right away. "It's okay," she said. "He's not going to find us. We lost him." "No, he didn't," Claire said, crying. I turned around to make sure the door was locked, but it wasn't there anymore. The door had vanished, replaced with more of the never-ending hallway. I took a couple steps forward and felt the air in front of me to make sure the door hadn't just turned invisible. Sadly, there was no such luck. The house was rearranging itself, forcing us to play along with this stupid game. I heard Lauren gasp and turned around to see Wolfgang standing behind her. One of his hands was wrapped in her hair, the other holding onto the gun to her head. His eyes were on me. "Wolfgang, wait!" I shouted. "You don't have to do this. Hey, nobody has to die anymore." That was evidently the wrong argument. He executed her right in front of us. Claire screamed as Wolfgang raised the gun and pointed it at her. "Wait!" I shouted with even more desperation. Amazingly, he gave me a chance. "What could you possibly say that I'm going to want to hear?" I got down on my knees. "I know what's going on. Okay, I figured out the mystery of Bedside Manor. I can get us both out of here." "I don't want to get out of here." I had no response. All I could do was look at Claire. She returned my gaze. Her piercing blue eyes held nothing back. She was afraid. She was terrified that I might be wrong. She was terrified of Wolfgang. And as a surge of electricity ran up my spine, she sent a message that only I could hear. "Follow the smoke." He pulled the trigger. And Claire was dead again. Why? I screamed. They didn't do anything to you. Why can't you leave everyone else alone? It's me you want to kill. I don't want to kill you, you idiot. I want to make you hurt. Like you made me hurt. I was stuck in that room all alone for days. Do you know what that kind of pain feels like? Well, to be fair, you also murdered your mom and tried to kill me and also killed everyone else, so maybe get off your high horse and quit being such a dick about it. He aimed the gun at my crotch, smiled, and pulled the trigger. A second later, his smile turned into a frown. Nothing happened. Oh God, am I glad I didn't screw up my bullet count there. He shrieked and threw the gun at me, but I'd already started to move for the closest door. I pushed through, slammed it behind me, and found another identical door nearby, and ran through it. I repeated the step a few more times, then stopped to relax against the wall. To my right, as far as I could see, were identical doors against an incalculable horizon of lime green and purple. To my left, the exact same thing. Somewhere far off in the distance, I could hear his screams, echoing in every direction. I was trapped in this labyrinth with a monster and no clue how to escape. And then, I smelled the smoke. Surely it can't be that easy, can it? I started walking. In time, the smell became stronger. I was breathing in the right direction, passing door after door, pausing every few steps to take a deep breath and make sure that I hadn't lost the trail. The screams of the young psychopath were definitely getting closer by the second, tempting me to run away, but I ignored them and I took my time. When I found the right door, I knew immediately. It smelled like I was standing next to one of Jerry's New Year's bonfires, when he'd throw in plastic, electronics, old tires, and anything else he could find. I tapped the door handle. It was warm, but not hot enough to scald my hand. As Wolfgang's voice continued to bounce around the endless hallway, I opened the door and stepped into the parlor. The fire blazed out of control. The smoke was so thick I couldn't breathe or see further than a few feet in front of my face. A crashing noise erupted over my head like the building was being ripped in two. I looked up just in time to see the ceiling cave in on me. Suddenly I found my breath. The pain in my ear was gone and the world came into focus all over again. Jerry was at my side now, shouting something that sounded like, "Whoa, Nelly!" Across the dining table, Wolfgang was clawing his way over to me with a dinner knife in his hand. Lauren leapt to her feet and picked up her chair and broke it into pieces against the boy as soon as he was close enough to hit. Jerry quickly grabbed him by the feet, pulled him off the table, and threw him into a headlock, while Hope screamed for them to let her child go. She took her gun and aimed and pulled the trigger. Yet nothing happened. Hope was alive. Wolfgang was subdued. I was almost proud that we'd survived the first 30 seconds as a group. But now wasn't the time to relish the minor victory. As the rest of them screamed and fought with one another, I left, and I went into the Great Hall. There was someone I needed to talk to. I opened the front door to find the detective standing there, staring at his pocket watch. He looked up and said, "Hello?" with a note of surprise. "I wasn't expecting to see you already. We need to talk." He put away his pocket watch and asked, "Are you going to try to hurt me? Because I could save you the trouble. I'm not. I figured it out." He crossed his arms. "What, pray tell, do you think you figured out?" I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and said, "The mystery of Bedside Manor." "No, you haven't, Jack. You lot haven't even come close." Hear me out. I've known something was wrong ever since the moment we arrived, only I couldn't understand what it was. Every time I tried to look Maggie in the eyes, I could sense that something was off about her, like uncanny valley kind of off. Then there was the way that she and Nathaniel teleported whenever they weren't being watched. There was the rain that came from nowhere, the rearranging forest, the guardrails that kept us from leaving. It all finally came together when I heard Tobias call this dinner table fiasco a respawn. You know what a respawn is, don't you? It's a video game term. You gave us save points. You gave us NPCs. You built your own custom physics engine. Oh, it's so obvious now. The reason we can't stay dead is because none of us are even here. Bedside Manor is a simulation, isn't it? I told you to play the game. You're not playing, you're metagaming. But am I right? Do you know how many iterations of Bedside Manor I've personally overseen? Billions. Literally, billions. I helped to build a model of this game across virtually every version of your reality, and never once has a team failed so utterly and completely. Not one time, in case you didn't hear me, billions. Honestly, I'm impressed by the sheer ineptitude. Thanks. It doesn't matter. You'll play the game eventually, even if I have to personally play along with you. Sometimes the players need a little hand-holding to get them into the right track, and you will get on the right track. Far too much at stake to give up now. I knew it was pointless to ask, but I tried anyway. What's at stake? Much to my surprise, he answered freely. You're close, but not close enough to understand this isn't a video game. It's a psychological reconnaissance. A compatibility test to determine if a world is ripe yet. Ripe for what? He chuckled under his breath. This evidently was one secret he wanted to keep. You won't even know we're here, child. Our presence is a symbiosis, the same way a farmer feeds and protects his livestock. We can make you happy, fat, immortal, anything you can imagine and more. All you have to do is play the goddamn game. I crossed my arms. I don't want to. With the fate of both of our species hanging in the balance, do you really think I'd allow you any choice in the matter? He didn't give me a chance to answer. The next thing I knew, we'd already reset. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video or listening to tonight's story on the podcast if you're listening on the podcast. If you're not listening on the podcast, then you can always find the podcast on Spotify, on Google, and on iTunes. And if you are not watching on YouTube, then hey, you should probably check out the MrCreepyPasta Storytime YouTube. It's on YouTube. Especially, I wanted to give a big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Mr. Thud, Ken Lando Higuchi, Chompski, Bobby Carmen, Nico kaeo, Tristain Pelton, Chase Burnett, Deanna Kraus, King Hades F13, Unknown Nobody, Joshua McMeekin, Michael Scarborough, Kazan, this is my real name, no shit, Jason VB Wilson, Infernal One, Little Wolf Gaming, JimboTheHutt, Caspian, Jordan Nells, Hades' nephew, Jordan Wayne Deckard, Randy Leipe, Ann Charron, AcidSystem, Mike Bullock, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Brian Ark, Cryptic Nightmares, Shadow Morningstar, Someone You Love, S-Man, Kieran the Sloth, Thomas Burgett, Liam Newman, Sky Harbor, Caleb Dougal, Nina Smith, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Storm Crow, Daniel Paulson, and CoryxKenshin. Thank you guys so much for being supporters on Patreon. You guys are seriously the MVPs, as well as everybody who's listed down there in the description down below. I hope all of you have enjoyed the stories with me, and sweet dreams.